The HSS Relentless lumbered into the sprawling starport of the Galactic-conquered central hub, like an ancient leviathan surfacing in a sea of glassy darting fish. Where other warships gleamed with sleek hulls designed for speed and precision, the Relentless looked ponderous, its thick armor plates riveted and dented, its engines low-throbbing rather than humming, as if it had been dragged from another era. Spectators from dozens of species lined the docking bays, craning their necks to gape. Many whispered, some outright laughed. The sight of the enormous boxy warship chugging through the docking corridor was like watching a dinosaur trying to sprint among falcons. Is that really the new human ship? A shimmering, blue-skinned diplomat from the Elthari murmured to her companion. Looks like a floating bunker, the companion replied with a derisive smile. At the bridge's large viewport, Captain Mara Voss stood straight-backed, the weight of her command settling on her shoulders, but never bending her spirit. Her dark eyes swept the crowded hangar, catching the glances, curious, mocking, incredulous, that the crowd threw her way. She let out a small, almost imperceptible smile. Slow, yes, she murmured to her first officer, Commander Jalen. But they don't understand what slow means to us. Jalen's eyes flickered with understanding, but he said nothing. The ship's thick bulk might not have looked threatening, but its crew knew exactly what they carried. On the outside, the Relentless was a relic, centuries behind the Concorde's fastest destroyers and fighters, which boasted sleek grav drives and nanosteel plating. The Concorde's leaders openly mocked humanity's reliance on old-fashioned coil guns and sublight engines, their disdain reaching a crescendo in the war room, where the assembled fleet commanders scoffed. Look at it, the Krilltak admiral sneered. A steel behemoth too slow to keep up. At best it'll serve as a decoy. At worst it'll be a floating coffin. The humans, newest members of the Concord, had made no illusions about their status. They had fought tooth and claw to enter this galactic stage, and many believed their best days were behind them. Yet Captain Voss felt a quiet confidence. The Relentless's massive hull was packed with old-school engineering, thick armor designed to take hits, coil guns firing high-velocity projectiles that could punch through the latest energy shields, and a vast array of internal compartments optimized for adaptability and surprise. The ship was slow, yes, but built to endure. More importantly, its crew was handpicked for resilience and unconventional tactics. They were hardened veterans of Earth's brutal wars, where survival depended on endurance, not speed. As the ship docked with a heavy clang that echoed through the hangar, Captain Voss gave the order. Prepare for inspection. Show them what human endurance means. Outside, the crowd began to thin, many already convinced that the Relentless was nothing more than a curiosity, a slow-moving relic. But Mara had been waiting for this moment, because what no one saw was that the Relentless was not built to impress. In parades or diplomatic ceremonies, it was built to fight. And in the coming days, the galaxy would learn that slow did not mean weak. Later, at the Concorde's command center, holographic images of the Relentless flickered among those of other ships. General Takar, the grizzled commander of the Concorde forces, stared down at the displays with skepticism. A relic, he muttered. They call this our ally? Voss appeared on the holocom feed, calm and resolute. General, you underestimate us. The Relentless is more than its speed or sleekness. It's designed for endurance, for war as a test of will. We survive where others fail. The general scoffed. We'll see if your humans survive the first engagement. Mara's gaze hardened. We don't plan to just survive, we plan to win. As the meeting adjourned, whispers spread like wildfire. Some ridiculed, some doubted, but a few noted the fire in the human captain's voice. Later that night, Mara stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the glittering stars beyond the station's massive window. She thought of Earth, a small blue world battered by endless conflicts, whose people had learned to endure by sheer stubbornness. We are slow, she said quietly to herself, but we are relentless. And beneath the slow grinding engines of the warship, the machinery hummed with hidden potential, the promise of a power the galaxy had never faced before. The grand hall of the Galactic Concord was alive with chatter and clinking glasses, its vast shimmering dome lit by a constellation of hovering light orbs. Representatives from 100 species milled about, exchanging diplomacy and thinly veiled barbs. The gala was a celebration of peace and power, but beneath the surface, it was a contest of pride. Captain Mara Voss entered with measured steps, her uniform crisp, her posture unyielding. She scanned the room until she found her target, Admiral Zrex of the Krilltak fleet, a towering figure whose 4 eyes gleamed with arrogance. "You've brought a lumbering beast to our elegant skies," Zrex said with a snarl as she approached. His voice carried easily over the crowd, ensuring all could hear. "Do you expect us to believe that your slow-moving relic can stand against the Concord's finest?" The crowd chuckled, but Voss did not flinch. "We don't expect belief, Admiral," she replied evenly. "We expect results. And if you're willing to accept a challenge, we'll prove it." Zrex's eyes narrowed. "A challenge? What manner of foolishness?" Voss stepped forward, voice calm but carrying steel. "A fleet exercise. We'll face off in the Vega sector. Your fastest ships against the Relentless. We'll see whose tactics prevail." The room went quiet, whispers rippling like waves. The Relentless was no match in speed or firepower, so why did the human captain dare issue a challenge? Admiral Zrex laughed, loud and mocking. "Very well, human. Prepare to be humiliated." 2 hours later, the Concord's fleet assembled in the Vega sector, a cluster of asteroid fields and abandoned colonies, a perfect arena. Sleek cruisers gleamed under distant suns, their thrusters glowing blue-white as they danced in formation. The Relentless drifted behind, its engines a dull orange hum, sluggish but unyielding. On board, Mara studied the holographic battle grid with Commander Jalen. The other ships were fast, nimble, equipped with advanced AI targeting systems and energy, weapons that could slice through metal like paper. But the Relentless had other strengths. "We're not going to outrun them," Jalen said, "but we don't have to. Our tactics are about control." Mara nodded. "We force them to come to us, into our kill zones. We use their speed against them. Their strategy relied on patience and precision, laying traps within the asteroid fields using gravity anchors, to slow down attackers and firing coil gun volleys that punch through shields with kinetic fury. The simulation began. Zrex's fleet surged forward, sleek fighters darting in and out, testing the Relentless's defenses. They expected easy prey, but the human warship held steady. When one cruiser swooped too close, the Relentless deployed a gravity mine, a silent sphere that warped space-time just enough to drag the cruiser out of formation. Before it could react, a coil gun shell struck its engine array, leaving it drifting dead. The other ships hesitated, uncertain. Voss seized the moment. "Focus on control. Don't chase. Force them to follow our rhythm." The Relentless's massive bulk rotated slowly, positioning itself to shield vulnerable points and create overlapping fields of fire. The human crew moved with practiced efficiency, launching more gravity anchors and calculated volleys of coil gun fire. The faster ships found themselves slowed, their movements hindered by the traps. Zrex's fleet was frustrated, unable to leverage their speed advantage. Back in the observation gallery, the Concord's leaders watched in stunned silence. Whispers rose into outright murmurs. "How is this possible?" A Venkar admiral muttered. "A human ship, slow, cumbersome, is holding its own?" Mara's voice cut through the tension as she addressed the assembled commanders via hologram. "Speed is a weapon, yes, but patience and control win wars. You cannot outmaneuver what refuses to be chased." Zrex's face flushed with rage and disbelief. "You've been lucky." Mara smiled thinly. "No, Admiral. We're just getting started." As the exercise ended, the Relentless emerged largely unscathed, having immobilized or damaged nearly half of Zrex's fleet. The humans didn't celebrate loudly. They knew the real test lay ahead. Later, in the ship's mess hall, Voss addressed her crew, the weight of expectation heavy but steady. "We were mocked for our slowness. Tonight we proved that slow can be smart, slow can be strong, but we have only scratched the surface." Commander Jalen raised a glass. "Next time we show them what relentless really means." The crew responded with quiet cheers, a bond forged, in the knowledge that the galaxy's perception was shifting. The slow giant was no longer a joke. It was a threat. Outside the ship, the stars burned cold and indifferent. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers beyond imagining. But the Relentless was ready, and so was humanity. The Vega 7 mining colony was nestled in the shadow of a dying star, a patchwork of gleaming domes and drilling rigs scattered across the rocky surface. For years, it had been a steady source of rare minerals for the Galactic Concord, a symbol of peaceful cooperation among star systems, but peace shattered without warning. The first warning came as faint distress signals, blips on the Concord's long-range scanners. Mining outposts went silent, communications flickered, then cut out entirely. Panic rippled through the fleet monitoring the sector. Unknown hostile force, the Concord's tactical officer announced grimly. They're using phased weaponry, something we've never seen before. Their ships appear and disappear unpredictably. Captain Mara Voss stood at the bridge of the Relentless, eyes sharp as the alert alarms rang out. "Deploy fighters to assist," she ordered. "Bring me sensor data." The fleet scrambled, but the enemy was ruthless and efficient. One by one, Concord ships fell under assault, vaporized by invisible beams that tore through their shields as if they were paper. "Who are they?" Commander Jalen asked, staring at the streaming data. "The Zalnari," Voss said quietly, a name whispered in fearful legends. A machine race thought extinct. Their fleet was scattered in ancient wars. But if they've returned, this changes everything. The Relentless was the last to arrive in the sector. By then, most of the Concord's forces were retreating or destroyed. The battered survivors called out for reinforcements, but no ship could match the speed of the Zalnari's attacks. Voss gripped the edge of the command console. "They think we're slow, that we'll be easy prey. Let's prove them wrong." The Relentless slid into position, its engines burning low and steady. The Zalnari ships flitted like ghosts, phasing in and out of visibility, circling the human warship with deadly precision. "Fire at will," Voss commanded. The first salvo of coil gun rounds slammed into an approaching fighter. The rounds tore through its phased shields, ripping open the fragile craft. "Shields holding strong," the tactical officer reported. The Zalnari retaliated instantly, energy beams arcing toward the Relentless's hull. The ship shuddered as the beam struck, but the thick armor absorbed the punishment. "Damage report," Voss demanded. "Minor hull breaches, no critical systems affected," came the reply. A cruel smile tugged at her lips. "They underestimate us." As the battle unfolded, the Relentless's true power revealed itself. Its gravitational anchor missiles, silent orbs that warped space-time, pulled Zalnari fighters out of phase, trapping them momentarily before coil gun volleys shredded their hulls. Inside the ship, the crew worked with brutal efficiency. Marines armed with pulse rifles and EMP grenades prepared for boarding actions, anticipating that the Zalnari would attempt to infiltrate. "Boards incoming," the security chief warned. The corridors became death traps. Humans moved swiftly through narrow passageways using chemical smoke and guerrilla tactics honed on Earth's battlefields. The Zalnari, more machine than organic, struggled to adapt to the unpredictable chaos. Back on the bridge, Mara's eyes flicked to the tactical display. "They're regrouping," she said. "Prepare for a second wave." Commander Jalen nodded, activating countermeasures ready to deploy Thanatos. "Not yet," Mara replied. "We don't unleash our last card until we need it." The battle raged, the Relentless refusing to yield. Slowly but surely the tide began to turn. The Zalnari fighters, confused and trapped by gravitational fields, fell one by one. The battered Concord ships took heart and rallied. Suddenly the Zalnari flagship phased into view, a massive black spire bristling with weapons. Its arrival sent a shockwave through the Concord fleet. "Prepare for all-out assault," Voss ordered. "This ends here." The flagship unleashed a devastating barrage, forcing the Relentless to absorb the brunt of the attack. The ship groaned under the strain, but its armor held firm. "Captain," the tactical officer said, "the Thanatos AI is ready." Voss took a deep breath. "Activate." With a sudden pulse, The Relentless's core AI, codenamed Thanatos, awoke from its dormant state. Its algorithms rapidly calculated enemy patterns, predicting movements and coordinating the ship's weapons with terrifying precision. The human crew watched in awe as their slow ship transformed. Coil guns fired in perfect synchronization, gravity anchors struck with unerring accuracy, and defense systems anticipated attacks before they came. The Zalnari flagship faltered, its shields flickering as the relentless assault tore into its systems. "Keep firing," Voss commanded. "We're not done yet." As the flagship exploded in a silent bloom of debris, the remaining enemy ships scattered, retreating into the void. The Vega 7 sector fell silent. Captain Mara Voss allowed herself a brief smile. They had arrived too, late to save the colony but not too late to change the course of the battle. The slow giant had proven deadly. The HSS Relentless hung in the cold void, battered but unbowed, its broad hull a fortress against the silent storm of Zalnari ships that still dared to hover nearby. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the tactical displays flickering with streams of enemy data and their own dwindling shield readings. "They don't know what hit them," she muttered, voice low but fierce. "They think we're slow, predictable. They don't understand endurance." Commander Jalen worked the controls beside her, fingers dancing over panels to prepare the ship's secret arsenal. "The gravitational anchors are loaded and ready, Captain. Coil guns charged to maximum power. Boarding team standing by." The ship's rumbling engines thrummed steadily, a steady heartbeat amid the chaos. It was a stark contrast to the elegant, fast-moving warships of the Galactic Concord, but every inch of the Relentless's bulk had been designed for one purpose: to endure and to crush. The Zalnari fleet swarmed closer, their sleek, shifting forms flickering in and out of phase. Like ghosts in the dark, they struck with precision, weapons piercing shields with ease. But the Relentless simply absorbed the attacks, its thick armor groaning but holding. "Fire the first volley," Mara ordered. The ship's massive coil guns roared, spitting out slugs of tungsten and depleted uranium at hypervelocity. The projectiles punched through Zalnari shields with explosive force, detonating within enemy hulls and sending fractured ships spiraling away. "Direct hit," the tactical officer confirmed. 3 enemy fighters disabled. The enemy regrouped quickly, circling for another strike. Mara didn't wait. "Deploy gravity anchors." From the Relentless's flanks launched several orbs, silent spheres that twisted space-time itself. The gravity anchors flared briefly, creating invisible wells of gravity that ripped through the enemy formations. Zalnari fighters became trapped in the anchor's fields, their phased drives destabilized. Ships that had been shadows moments, before now hung helpless, vulnerable to the next human strike. "Now coil gun barrage," Mara commanded. The Relentless unleashed a relentless storm of projectiles. One by one, the trapped fighters exploded, hulls rupturing in fiery blossoms. The bridge crew exchanged looks of grim satisfaction. Below decks, the atmosphere shifted. The narrow corridors of the Relentless became a battlefield of a different kind. "Boards incoming!" the security chief shouted. Marines snapped into action, donning exo armor and arming pulse rifles and EMP grenades. They moved swiftly to choke points, ready to meet the Zalnari boarding parties who could phase through walls and bypass many conventional defenses. But the humans were ready. Corridors filled with chemical smoke and flashbangs, turning the ship's interior into a labyrinth of confusion for the invaders. Ambushes struck quickly, brutal hand-to-hand combat erupting in tight spaces where the Zalnari's precision technology faltered. Aboard the Relentless, chaos was controlled. Back on the bridge, Mara's eyes never left the tactical displays. The Zalnari flagship emerged again, a looming black spire armed with weapons designed to obliterate. "Target the flagship," she ordered. "Coordinate coil gun volleys with gravity anchors. Focus fire." The ship's AI, Thanatos, hummed to life, a whisper of forbidden technology. Its algorithms analyzed enemy movement, coordinating every weapon system with terrifying efficiency. The flagship fired a devastating beam, slicing toward the Relentless's hull. Shields flared, absorbing the blow. "Prepare for impact," the chief engineer warned. Hull integrity at 70%. Hold steady, Mara said. Thanatos, synchronize all weapon systems. With deadly precision, the Relentless fired volley after volley of coil gun rounds. Gravity anchors flared, pulling the flagship's massive hull into impossible orbits, destabilizing its phase drives. Shields failing, came the urgent report. The flagship shuddered, systems overloading as plasma tore through exposed conduits. Mara smiled, voice cold steel. Now, bored, Marines launched in fast pods, piercing the flagship's outer hull. Inside, the fight was savage. The Zalnari were ruthless opponents, but the humans' experience with close-quarters combat gave them the edge. Grenades detonated, pulse rifles roared, and the air filled with the hum of energy and the clash of blades. Secure the bridge, Mara ordered, watching as her boarding teams pushed forward. The flagship systems went dark one by one. On the Relentless, the enemy's flagship exploded in a violent bloom, fragments scattering like deadly stars. The remaining Zalnari ships faltered, their formation breaking apart. Enemy retreating, the tactical officer announced. Mara exhaled slowly, eyes shining with quiet triumph. They mocked us for our slowness. Now they know why the Relentless is feared. The slow giant had been unleashed, and it was deadly. The silence that followed the battle was almost eerie. The once bustling Vega 7 sector was now a graveyard of shattered ships and drifting debris. The Galactic Concorde's fleet, battered and diminished, slowly regrouped around the Relentless, the lone warship that had stood its ground when all others fled. Captain Mara Voss surveyed the damage reports with a grim expression. The Relentless bore scars. Deep gouges and scorch marks marred its thick armor, but it remained unbroken, a testament to human endurance and resolve. Commander Jalen approached, his face lined with exhaustion but lit by pride. We did what no one believed possible. The fleet owes its life to this ship and her crew. Mara shook her head. We've won this fight, but the war is far from over. The Zalnari will return, stronger and smarter. We need to prepare. Back on the command deck of the Concorde's flagship, General Takar's icy demeanor thawed only slightly as he watched the humans' ship from a distance. The Relentless had shattered his long-held prejudice against humanity's slow and outdated tactics. Captain Voss, he finally spoke, his voice grudging respect, replacing scorn. Your tactics saved the fleet today. You have my permission to lead the reconnaissance of the Zalnari's home sector. Mara nodded, understanding the weight of the responsibility. We won't fail. But not everyone was convinced. In the shadows of the Concorde's political chamber, whispers of dissent grew louder. Many fleets resented humanity's sudden rise, viewing their slow, brute force approach as a threat to the technological superiority that had long defined the Concorde. Ambassador Lisha of the Elthary faction approached Mara privately. Her eyes were sharp and calculating. Your victory today is impressive, Captain, she said carefully. But be warned, the Concorde's power players may not welcome a human warship disrupting the status quo. They prefer wars fought with finesse, not brute endurance. Mara met her gaze evenly. Then we'll show them that endurance is a form of finesse they've forgotten. Meanwhile, the Relentless prepared for its next mission. The ship's AI, Thanatos, quietly ran simulations, analyzing every scrap of data from the Zalnari encounter. Its cold logic suggested one conclusion: the enemy was adapting. We need to evolve faster than they can, Mara told her senior staff. We'll retrofit the ship with improved shielding and develop new tactics that blend speed and endurance. The wine. Crew set to work, their resolve hardening like the steel plates of their ship. As the Relentless moved deeper into hostile space, Captain Voss stood once more on the observation deck, staring into the stars. The war ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity's slow warship was no longer an outcast. It was a symbol, a promise. The galaxy's deadliest weapon wasn't speed, technology, or finesse. It was relentless determination. And that was something no enemy could outpace. The Relentless cut through the darkness of space like a behemoth, slow but inexorable. Captain Mara Voss stood at the front of the bridge, watching the void stretch endlessly ahead. Behind her, the crew busied themselves with preparations, their faces set with grim determination. "We're approaching the coordinates of the Zalnari home sector," Commander Jalen announced, voice tight with anticipation. "Sensors are detecting faint energy signatures, phased energy emissions unlike anything we've encountered before." Mara nodded. "Thanatos, run full spectrum scans. Identify any anomalies." The AI responded instantly, filling the tactical displays with waves of data. Ghostly blips flickered, shadows in the dark, hiding massive shipyards and sprawling artificial structures. "The Zalnari fortress is immense," Thanatos intoned. "Their technology has evolved since our last encounter. Their phased drives, now capable of extended cloaking and faster rematerialization." Mara's eyes narrowed. "They're not just survivors, they're advancing. We can't afford to lose the element of surprise." The crew prepared the Relentless for stealth operations. Engines switched to low-output mode, minimizing emissions. Sensor arrays adjusted to detect the faintest disturbances in phased space. "Captain," the tactical officer said, "enemy patrols ahead. Small drones, phased fighters scouting for intruders." Mara leaned forward, voice steady. "Deploy gravity mines and coil gun traps. We'll use their own tactics against them." The space around the Relentless shimmered as gravity mines slipped into place, invisible snares ready to snare any pursuers. The first drone approached, flickering in and out of phase. It suddenly slowed, caught in a gravitational well, and before it could react, a coil gun slug tore through its core. "Drone destroyed," the tactical officer reported. "No alerts yet from the fortress." But the victory was short-lived. "Captain, incoming." Alarms blared as a fleet of Zalnari warships phased into view. "They've found us." The Relentless's crew braced for the storm. The battle erupted with sudden violence. The Zalnari ships flickered and phased, striking unpredictably. Their weapons cut through the void with lethal precision. "Hold formation," Mara commanded. "Focus on gravitational traps. Don't chase their speed." The Relentless's coil guns fired in sweeping arcs, each shot calculated to exploit the enemy's momentary vulnerability as they phased back into reality. "Shields weakening," the tactical officer warned. "They're adapting faster than predicted. Thanatos, adjust tactics. Calculate new gravity anchor deployment patterns." The AI's algorithms shifted, coordinating the ship's weapons with ever greater precision. Mines exploded in deadly bursts, crippling enemy fighters while the Relentless held steady against the bombardment. Amid the chaos, Mara received a transmission from the Concord's command. "Captain Voss," General Takar's voice crackled, "reinforcements are delayed. You are our only hope in this sector. You must infiltrate the fortress and gather intelligence on the Zalnari's next moves." Mara acknowledged the message. "Understood, General. We'll do what we must." Battle raged on, but the Relentless's steady defense began to wear down the Zalnari fleet. One by one, their ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Seizing the moment, Mara ordered the boarding teams to prepare for another strike. "This time," she said, "we take the fight to them." As the Relentless slipped through a cloaked jump point near the fortress, Mara felt the weight of what lay ahead. The Zalnari were more than just a threat. They were a dark force that could consume entire systems if left unchecked. But the Relentless was humanity's shield, slow but unstoppable, and Captain Mara Voss was ready to lead her crew into the heart of the abyss. The Relentless drifted into the shadowed expanse of the Zalnari fortress like a slow-moving predator stalking its prey. The colossal structure loomed ahead, a labyrinthine city of blackened spires, mechanical arms, and pulsing energy conduits. From the outside, it appeared almost alive, a sprawling hive of alien technology unlike anything humanity had encountered. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the fortress's sprawling surface. "This is it," she said, quietly. "We get inside, gather intel, and find a way to cripple their fleet before they can strike again." Commander Jalen activated the ship's cloaking fields, wrapping the Relentless in a near-invisible veil of phased energy. Engaging stealth systems. Will be ghosts in their sensors. The crew held their breath as the ship edged closer, careful to avoid the fortress's heavy patrols and automated defense grids. Any misstep could mean instant destruction. Deep within the fortress, Zalnari sentinels scanned the skies, their sensors calibrated to detect the faintest disruption in phased space. Yet the Relentless slipped past, its slow and steady approach confusing even their advanced systems. On board, Mara gathered her senior officers. "Boarding teams ready?" Lieutenant Kira, the lead Marine, nodded grimly. "Ready, Captain. We've adapted our gear to handle phased environments. EMP pulses and chemical disruptors should give us the edge inside." Mara's voice hardened. "Remember, no mistakes. We don't know what defenses they have beyond sensors and ships. This is their home turf." The boarding pods detached from the Relentless's belly, silent as shadows as they sped toward the fortress. Mara led the first team personally, her pulse rifle humming softly in her hands. As they breached the outer hull, the Zalnari response was immediate. Security drones flickered in and out of phase, materializing in corridors with deadly precision. Pulse fire echoed as humans and machines clashed in brutal close-quarters combat. The Marines moved like shadows themselves, deploying EMP grenades that short-circuited enemy systems and using chemical smokescreens to disrupt the Zalnari's phased sensors. The fighting was savage. Machines adapted quickly, but the humans' unpredictability kept them off balance. Deeper inside, the team found the nerve center of the fortress, a vast control hub pulsing with alien energy. Displays flickered with star charts, fleet movements, and data streams encrypted with unfamiliar code. Mara's tech specialist, Ensign Roan, worked swiftly to interface with the systems. "I'm in," he whispered, fingers flying across his console. Downloading schematics and fleet logs. Suddenly, alarms blared. "They've triggered internal defenses," Roan shouted. The fortress rumbled as automated turrets powered up, flooding corridors with deadly energy blasts. The boarding team ducked behind pillars, returning fire while Roan continued his work. On the Relentless, Mara's second-in-command, Commander Jalen, faced a growing crisis. Zalnari reinforcements were converging on their position. "Captain, we need to extract the boarding teams before we're overwhelmed." Mara's jaw tightened. "Not yet, Roan's almost done. This data could turn the tide." Inside the fortress, Roan's eyes widened as the downloads completed. "Captain, they're planning a massive strike on Concord's homeworlds. The fleet we destroyed was just the beginning." Mara's mind raced. If they failed to stop this, assault entire systems would fall. "Prepare demolition charges," she ordered. "We're taking this place down." The evacuation was brutal. Zalnari forces closed in, cutting off corridors and forcing the Marines into desperate firefights. The Relentless fired on external batteries, buying precious seconds as the boarding. Pods returned. Mara was the last to board, her armor scorched and her breath ragged. The ship's AI coordinated a rapid escape, cloaking the Relentless and slingshotting it away from the crumbling fortress just as the charges detonated. From the safety of the bridge, Mara watched as the alien stronghold erupted in a chain reaction of explosions. The shockwave rippled through space, a beacon of human resolve. "We did it," she said, though her voice held no triumph. "But the war isn't over." Commander Jalen nodded. "We've bought time. Now the Concorde can prepare." Mara stared into the dark stars. The slow warship had proven its worth, but the galaxy was vast and threats still loomed. One thing was clear. Humanity would fight to the last breath, slow or fast, but always relentless. The HSS Relentless cruised through the calm aftermath, like a titan reclaiming its domain. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge, her gaze sweeping the stars with a tempered satisfaction, though the weight of the war ahead still pressed heavily on her shoulders. The destruction of the Zalnari fortress had sent a clear message across the galaxy. Humanity was not the slow, clumsy race many had dismissed. It was a force of endurance, resolve, and unexpected lethality. The data recovered from the fortress painted a grim picture. The Zalnari were planning a concentrated strike on key Concorde worlds, aiming to cripple their defenses before launching a full-scale invasion. General Takar's voice crackled over the comm, filled with urgency. Captain Voss, your intel has given us precious time. The Concorde fleet is mobilizing. Your ship and crew will lead the frontline defense. Mara nodded firmly. We'll be ready. The Concorde fleet assembled in orbit around the capital. Of the human-aligned worlds, a massive armada of sleek, fast ships and heavy dreadnoughts. Yet at the center of it all was the Relentless, the slow, hulking warship that had proven itself time and again. The Zalnari fleet emerged from the dark, their phased ships flickering like specters. They struck hard and fast, their advanced tech cutting through many frontline ships. But the Relentless held coil guns thundered, gravity anchors flared, and the Relentless's shields absorbed devastating blows. Its slow pace allowed it to anticipate attacks, positioning itself like an immovable mountain. Focus fire on their flagship, Mara ordered. Thanatos, synchronize all weapon systems. The AI responded instantly, unleashing a coordinated barrage. The flagship shuddered under the assault, its phased drives destabilizing. Boarding teams launched once more, taking the fight directly into enemy vessels. The human Marines fought fiercely, using every tool and tactic learned from previous battles. Amidst the carnage, Mara received a transmission from the Zalnari commander, a voice dripping with contempt. You cling to your slow machines, human. Speed and precision will always dominate. Mara's reply was calm but resolute. Speed without endurance is fleeting. We endure, we adapt, we win. The tide turned. One by one, Zalnari ships fell, caught in gravity traps or shattered by coil gun fire. The flagship exploded in a fiery blaze, its destruction signaling the collapse of the invasion. The Concorde fleet surged forward, routing the remnants of the Zalnari armada. As the battle ended, the galaxy looked on in awe. The Relentless, once mocked and underestimated, had become a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit. On the bridge, Mara allowed herself a rare smile. The slow warship had proven that sometimes the greatest weapon wasn't speed or technology, but relentless determination. In the days that followed, diplomatic channels opened. Many factions within the conquered began to respect, even admire, humanity's unique approach to warfare. Ambassador Lisha approached Mara once again, this time with a genuine smile. Your victory has changed many minds. Perhaps there is more to endurance than we thought, Mara nodded. The galaxy is vast. There is strength in diversity, and strength in persistence. The Relentless set a course for new missions, her crew ready for whatever awaited. Captain Mara Voss stood on the observation deck, watching the stars stretch into infinity. The slow warship had carved its legend into the cosmos, and its story was just beginning.